So I want to talk about something that might be rather controversial, but hey, a lot of things are, and when we're talking about the quote-unquote truth, I mean, that's where we're gonna get, right? Is controversial subjects, the things that people may not want to face, and that includes oftentimes also ourselves. They also always keep in check, which is why I often ask you your thoughts, and so please keep that in mind as I go through this video to share your thoughts, with me freely. Just keep an open mind to what I have to say, as all things I please ask of you. So let's get into it. So I talked about the immorality in society, but today's video I want to talk about how if we're moving into a society where everything is going to be a collapse, you realize there's going to come a lot with that. This is not going to be some very just here today, gone tomorrow situation. Now, maybe in a time span of 100, 200 years, sure, but it would still be very impactful, as we see most projections say it's going to be worse than the Great Depression. Okay, now I'm not trying to put people in fear, because I know I've been telling a lot of people about how this is coming. And that's based on a lot of projections. I'm obviously not in the economic field, so I'm not very specialized in that. I will admit to that, and I should fully, if I do not know much about it. I will be honest with you, I don't have much interest into it, but it's become clear to me over the past couple of years, and how simply 2008 was simply done within itself, and that was technically our last collapse, to which the banks were bailed out by Obama, and essentially brought us into greater debt. Now, we see patterns in history everywhere from Napoleon to, may I say, Hitler, to the Roman Empire. Those three in particular, from their rising up to their collapse, to just the way they were viewed by the world and everything, is very telling for how we can learn from history. But I'm afraid those topics in particular are often the most distorted, often most confused, often most unknown. That's not to say that what we have in our history books is a lie, even though most people, I think, can generally agree that it's not entirely accurate. But do you realize how much is actually a lie? And that's not me siding with anybody. Don't think that I'm siding with anybody just because I say something about it. It's the same thing with the ways of eating. People think, oh, well, just because I'm not 100% vegan means I'm siding with somebody. It's not true. And I understand what's there objectively, right? The natural laws. So for me to speak about governments, for example, and say, well, we can learn from them, and there's some good, there's some bad, and so forth, just keep in mind the bigger picture here is that all government is bad. And all government has been formed and has always been formed with slavery. It's just the very nature of government. Looking at it and thinking about it, you'll come to the same conclusion with or without knowing the natural law. Because they basically rely on individuals, and to some extent they do give their consent, but they're still allowing their natural rights to be ruled over, those natural rights to be claimed by people who actually don't have that right to begin with. So whether you're talking about natural law, you could also talk about natural rights in that respect. Now, I don't want this to be too controversial, like I said, but there's a lot of subjects in history that I'm afraid people just don't know. And I could actually give defense to many different arguments. For example, flat Earth and what exactly happened during World War II. And the way our society has been going right now. So there's a lot of things that I could perhaps write down a whole list, like go down each one. So the most notorious one, as I've mentioned before, is morality, where, as these governments start to fall, like the Roman Empire and in America as it's looking at, they fall due to a lack of morality. Okay, now obviously Germany was an exception because they were bombed, basically, surrounded by pretty much every nation on earth. And they were fighting the communists. Okay, so let's just get that straight. And what do we see rising in the world today? We see Antifa. We see people making excuses for socialism and communism. Now think what you want about those ideologies. Many individuals, I'm sure many people in today's civilization, everybody from, let's say, age 15 to 30, perhaps thinks that's actually a good idea, despite looking at the history of it. And thinking about communism, you also associate words like socialism and Marxism. So why would I say that Germany was against communists when they are two socialists? Okay, so they're still a government, right? But they were national socialists, so does it count? National, not international. Made it very clear, too, in the writings. Kicking out the international bankers, they brought back power to their own country. Now, that's the same thing Napoleon did, supposedly. Okay, I'm going off of supposed ideas here, although they exist with great evidence, with or without them actually happening. But I believe that is what actually happened. Okay, Napoleon did the same thing, and he got in a lot of trouble for it. Also, a war hero, technically, because of how much victories they've achieved and how much land they conquered, technically. Again, not longly. The land they gained was not long had, but it was it was very drastic. It was enough to make an impact, for sure. Okay, so they made large land masses, but they didn't keep it for very long. So the same goes for Germany. And this is obviously a very touchy subject. I mean, you can't even say a lot of the words that to even just describe the simple history, because of those who write the history books and those who run everything, essentially. And it's not to give hints to what is and what isn't. Okay, I look at everybody as human beings at the end of the day. Are they violating natural law, or are they not? Right? See, it's like, where does NITA stand among this? It's like, well, I get it, all governments are bad, but we can still learn from the governments that did exist. Okay, we can actually learn a lot from them. And so I mentioned morality. Another one is, sexuality. That's very big. Very big. You see in the world growing need for just everything sexual. I mean, everything from the movies to online, popular websites, and it's absolutely bizarre, frankly. But you see that sort of material has been kicked out of certain countries sometimes. The book burning, for example, in Germany. And you question, well, okay, why they do this? To keep their soldiers focused, to bring moralities back into place. But more importantly, what do we see now in today's society? We see that. I mean, we see the two. So we see a lack of morality and a growing of perversion. So in a way they correlate. It's not just freedom and morality, it's also perversion and slavery, right? I mean, it only makes sense. Lack of freedom, more slavery. Lack of freedom, less morality, more perversion. But the worst part about this is when I connect everything to the collapse, okay? So it's already bad as it is. Looking at the world and the perversion of a state and all the cover-ups and the lacking of critical information to the masses, whether that be natural law or just knowledge in general or common sense in general, the idea of slavery in general, what these words even mean, where they come from, and everything like that. I mean, you can just go on and on. It's like a rabbit hole. Anybody in the truth community knows this. Some of them are absorbing it all day long, and like, dude, we got to do something about it. We got to do something. I'm going to have this urgency just within me all the time. Like, we need to do something. Are we going to do something? It's going to be in me forever. And I don't know if it'll ever leave, because the world is getting worse and I feel it. I'm not somebody who is not empathetic. I feel everything about it, even though I can just take the external world off my mind and say, well, I'm living in this small place. But when you take the internet into consumption, it's like, whoa, okay, the world is suddenly bigger, and there's so much mass information, and there's so much mass people, and there's so many civilizations in the world, and this is happening, that's happening, newsflash, what's this? It's like I say, it's not overwhelming, but it's it can control individuals and make them think of things that you wouldn't necessarily think about if you just lived your own life in your own way, without these external factors. One of which, beside mass information and mass everybody, everything, is media, is government. And those are the two biggest problems within, the modern world, of course. So, we have to learn from this, like, well, okay, nations became stronger after they got rid of international influence, or what people want to call globalist influence, and that's something that we need to keep into account. But a lot of people already know that, and we need to act then. See, like, we can't just do nothing about it. There's people with platforms. Why isn't this being shared? Such simple knowledge, such simple truths that we've learned through time and time again. When do we learn? Okay, so I'm not like laughing about it. I'm just like, I'm in pity over the world. You get a lack of words over looking at everything, observing it time and time again. I can't even go through news reports anymore. I can't even be a journalist because there's already so many people doing that. And it's not discouraging me. It's the fact that there needs to be action. The reporting is not enough anymore, folks. Like, there needs to be action. Reporting is not going to do it. And I've been saying that in my latest videos. Why? Why? Because it's just not going to do it. NITA is a special blueprint that you don't find anywhere else, nowhere on the internet, for the very reason of trying to unite all people under what's actually here to unite under. There's nothing like this. And I don't want to plug my stuff, but I wish there were other blueprints like it. I really wish, but I don't think anything like it really, frankly, exists. Like, oh, a flag, what is it, a whole new political party? You have red and blue, or what about in the middle, white, the white flag and the white party? But, people associate with other things. Like, I'm not here to associate. I don't even want to have a flag. I don't even want to get involved in politics. But what's going to save our world? And do we have enough people to do it? Do we have enough people that can come together? Do we have to go in person? Do we have to hold rallies? What is it that we have to do? I think people in independent media could start doing something like that. People, like I said, with large followings. Just some thoughts, at least, to create a conversation. You may not fully agree with that action step in particular, but at least let's get the conversation going. I don't know if you can agree with me, being that you're probably somebody who, follows independent media or follows the news in general. I highly suggest you do follow independent media. I try to make that pretty clear, right? Why would you just get your sources from just the mainstream media? It's quite toxic. It's all fear. Of course you wouldn't want to be on social media. At least independent media is telling you like it is in a way you kind of want to watch their stuff at first. And for me, just watching over the years, I'm just kind of done with it because I'm seeing patterns over and over again. That's not to say that they don't produce good content. They do, but I'm already kind of sick of it because I take things to heart to where I like to take action and connect the dots. And I could just keep connecting forever and ever, but there needs to be action, and there's clear as day action that we can do right now, right here. So, why aren't we doing it? That's the point I'm making. It's like, we can do it. Simple things, simple conversations, simple ideas. Is that going to get you in a lot of trouble just talking about it? What about your intentions? That's what matters. And what do you truly mean when you say those words? You defend yourself. You're strong. You're a human being. You have consciousness. You have willpower. Speak up. Okay? You see things that the world doesn't see. It's the whole point of the internet. Get those ideas out there. It's who you are. You came across this idea for a reason. You came across this knowledge for a reason. So use it. It's important to you for a reason. People are attracting onto it for a reason. But the change isn't going to happen by itself. And as much as I follow the Tao and so forth, it doesn't mean we just stay inactive the whole time and we don't do any action. You know, people say, oh, you follow the Tao, it means go with the flow. Not necessarily go with the flow all the way. Yeah, go with the flow of nature, not go with the flow of tyranny. Everything the Tao teaches is essentially saying, well, government's violating the Tao, so we can follow the Tao, but government isn't, and then they're going to force you to follow their orders. And then are we really following the Tao? Think about it. Think about the bigger picture. That's what it means. Okay? So you can say, oh, I'm contradicting the Tao by saying to take action. But again, the bigger picture, I'm afraid a lot of people don't see. And again, the same thing goes with the health argument I'm making, where I'm specifically saying it's the integration, it's the approach, it's the transition that counts. I'm not disagreeing with veganism being moral. It is definitely moral. Definitely moral. It's according to the natural law. Everybody knows it who studies the natural law, understands it. Nobody's disagreeing with that. I've made many videos saying that it is. Okay? I can make one video that says, okay, well, not 100%, and, you know, you do got to pay attention for your own health, and you don't want to harm yourself, and there's certain situations that it may not always apply, and, you know, at least have an open mind to the different perspectives. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to always agree with one another. It is a cult to just agree with something 100% all the way and shame other people for not following all the way. Okay? So, yeah, so I say, okay, well, take change and take it all the way. Sure, you should, probably. But it still depends on your own environment. So while I may say take change, you know, there are certain things that you may not want to do within your own environment. I made a video about that, about controversy, and said the truth is controversial, I believe. It's something like that. And it talks about that. It's just me in front of the camera. I talk about that, about how, frankly, you know, there's many things that, again, are controversial, but it depends. Like, you can come out and talk about it. It's not wrong. The truth is the truth, but you still want to just be aware, right, of what you're doing, what you're saying, and the people around you. You don't want to do something that's too extreme. So, all right. That's just a disclaimer, right? Don't do anything violent. Don't do anything stupid. You know your family members. Know where you live. Know the environment you're in. You know, you can be brave. You can face your fears, but you still want to make good decisions, right? So, consider all the factors at play, not just one or another. Back to the message at hand is when we're in a collapse scenario, I'm afraid this idea of morality will just keep going away, especially with the systems of the world. It's not like the past. It's not like the past cycles. I warned people about this in my documentaries about how to change the world. I said the way they have things with technology, they never had technology before. You know, there's been people of the past who obviously was like, oh, I want to take over the world, and it's possible, and yeah, it's possible, but now it's very possible. And now they definitely have that possibility. In fact, they already have it, just under the illusion of multiple different countries, multiple different parties, and so on. There's illusions pretty much everywhere. We're living in literally an illusion by the day at this point. There's so many illusions, it's hard to count. You know, I'm not here to get in some philosophical science debate, like, is life a simulation or not? Like, come on. People will, again, absorb themselves in that, but the point is like, getting back down to nature is not talking about these things in super depth of detail, necessarily. Oh, we're higher beings of consciousness in order we can just go 100% vegan, and we can talk about these ideas for days. Listen, nature is not always this complex. It's quite simple, frankly. The average farmer or somebody who, is out and outdoors is not going to worry about all this. And they are fine. And they're like, I mention any collapse scenario to them, and they're like, I got my firearms, I'm good. That's what they sound like, right? And they're look, they're chill. They're going with it. They're going with the days. And because of that mentality, they're going to be okay. So we're going to see crazy mental health problems here. And if they introduce a vaccine and they introduce all this other stuff, health is going to be a big concern, especially with starvation and a collapse, especially with a lack of drugs and other medicinals and nutrition as a whole, literally malnourishment because of starvation and so forth. And if you're being poisoned and you're not even providing food for your body, I mean, you're doing more harm than starvation itself, see? So it's just piling on. Nonetheless, I mean, just within the next 5 years, every other kid has autism, and 1 in 2 for cancer, almost. Society's not looking good, folks. Like, there needs to be change. And I don't want to be on the internet saying there needs to be change, but I am getting the message out there, at least. Like I said, 50 people each week, at least, for getting the natural law out there. But we need to inspire people, motivate them, and actually get these people out of their positions of power. And I'm not saying to create a revolt or reform the system. I'm calling for a mass awakening of knowledge being poured to the public. The natural law, for example. Universal ideas, nature, as an example. Universal knowledge, not a universal government. Universal enlightenment, not universal slavery. There's a difference. Okay? And just because I'm calling for this world change does not mean it has to be a world government. So let's make that very clear upon this. And I'm sure they're going to use the same arguments in their approach, but they're not going to teach you the natural law. Their law is the law, which is man's law. Their medicine is the medicine, which is pharmaceutical medicine. Notice the patterns, and again, in people, when they're in this state of collapse, they're growing dependent on government. And what are those kids wanting again? Oh, they're wanting communism. They're wanting Marxism, ultimately. What's on the rise? Gays, transgenders. All this sexual perversion. Guess what? All hallmarks of Marxism. No surprise. All comes out of it. All is funded by it. This is literally fact. Okay, you can look it up for yourself. If you can find the sources by now, because everything's getting censored. So seriously, think about the world around you at least. Because there's a mass amount of confusion. A mass amount of disconnect between the masculine and the feminine. The principles of gender, principles of polarity, principles of rhythm and cause and effect and everything. Rhythm. All of it. It's all out of balance. No wonder. Unharmonious. Nobody's making good music. No good video games are coming out unless they're new versions of the same old video game. Guys, the creativity, I said, reflects everything. I talk about creativity a lot on my channel. Very important, very important. I can go through each thing, right? So in a collapse scenario, bad mental health, bad health in general, especially if they're being fed by the government, and then they're pleading for the government for help, so they're basically asking for communism, and all the kids and all the college kids are up for it because they're taught that in school, that it's okay. They have no clue how economy works. They have no clue, well, at least what freedom works, I'm saying, in regards, because like I said, I don't know much about economy, but I know simple aspects like the fruits of your labor and freedom and how voluntarism works. So it's quite easy to understand free trade in such regard. But, everybody thinks the government has to feed them, essentially. And some of them are just, frankly, used to it. They don't know how to live without it. Okay, so, yeah, I'm calling for mass self-sustainability, mass self-responsibility. Because if everybody was self-responsible, they wouldn't be asking for everybody else to do everything for them. It's like saying, oh, I give up on life. I have no will. I have no consciousness. So government, please take it over for me. So whether you consent or not, you're literally giving your humanity away to people who are actually Satanists. You know, out on the record. You know, wearing the upside down crosses, everything inverted. Mark Passio, a former satanic priest, exposing it all as well, and how everything they do is among the satanic strategies. So, it's no surprise. They're taking your human consciousness through technology, through government as slavery, and through sexual perversion, which is literally right out of Satanism and Babylonians. I mean, it's right in your face. And I get it, you know, there's a lot of people in the truth community who are also fed up. But seriously, what actions are we going to take to change this whole system? That's what we need the conversation for. We can complain all we want and say there needs to be change, but there's not going to be any change unless we actually do something about it. Yeah, we do need to start pointing the fingers at each other. If we want to unify, at least we have a lot of people already right off the bat. I don't want to cause infighting. I want to say, okay, well, you come over here, let's talk. Let's see how we can go about in this similar direction that we see we clearly have to go. And I see that as people get more desperate and as people see everything turn to a collapse scenario, all these truth community people will start taking more action. But guess what? Then it's already too late. I'm not saying not to take action, but I'm not saying to commit suicide, because that's also a very bad idea, by the way. You know, it's like all these people saying, well, I give up on life. If that comes to the case, I'm just gonna kill myself. The lack of will, again, the lack of consciousness, the lack of power, willpower of their self. They give it up. No wonder why evil wins. No wonder. Right in your face. I don't take these words from anybody. That's why I don't watch anybody, so I can have complete words of my own of this. Okay? I mean, because I've done the years of observation. I've done just a little bit of looking around the world and being in nature and talking to individuals and so on. It's not hard to come up to these simple conclusions. You know, the history and stuff, you don't have to know about that. The economic stuff, you don't necessarily even need to know about that. But it's clear that we're leading toward division when it looks like left and right are fighting each other, and right is supposed to be right, and left is supposed to be the crazy lunatics, and the ones that are out for all freedom, but yet everybody on the right is all freedom, and they just don't understand each other, and it's this person and that person, they define a party, and these ideas define this party, these ideas define that party. No, it's all just there for division. You know, this media station portrays the left, this one portrays the right, and oh, just because they're getting attacked means that they must be good. Oh, there's some secret hackers, and come on, let's not get caught up in these webs, literally online webs, trapping us, sticking us to different ways of thinking, and we get stuck in those for sure through our belief systems. I'm sure some individuals are not going to like what I have to tell you. I'm sorry that you're not going to like what I have to tell you, you know, here today, but I'm sorry. This scenario of a collapse is going to happen no matter who's in charge. And will they get the blame for it? I don't know. Will assassination be made just to make more division? They could do that. They could stage anything in the world just to create more division. They'll do it. They'll take out their own just to make more monopoly. You know, give some people the illusion like they have power, like Bill Gates and Elon Musk. Give them the illusion that they have power. And then they'll feel comfortable until you decide, no, they don't deserve it. We can just turn off the switch at any time, because there's always handlers, there's always masters, there's always financiers, there's always somebody behind the scenes. So how do we get to those people behind the scenes then, right? You're asking, well, what's the root cause, right? Isn't the people behind the scenes the roots, and if you strike at the roots, you hit the whole system down? Yeah, technically, yeah. So do we go after the bankers? Well, we realize, where did the bankers get their power from? Again, it's still all us, right? Because we're the ones that put everything into power. So we need to awaken the masses, right? Which is why everybody delivers information. Okay, but we need to deliver action to the masses and say, well, we need to actually do something and get your family members, your police, the firearms. I mean, firemen and everybody, get them all together. Get these universal knowledge about, not just America, by the way, humanity. Hello? Like, hello, I mean, do you realize the Pledge of Allegiance is basically just an allegiance to a cult? Like anything else, a religion of its own? These are controversial truths. I get it. People are not going to want to hear it. Oh, I'm too young. My prefrontal cortex is not developed. Oh, I don't understand the world. And there must be a government. And oh, it's just another cycle. If you get rid of the government, it's just going to rise up again. No, you have universal knowledge of how government in its very nature, statism, actually, not just government, statism in the very nature is immoral and is unethical and is slavery. That's always in circulation. The natural law is always here, directly for us. Karmic reactions are more instant and more known, therefore we learn better. Then no, government will not rise up as much as it has now, and as much as it has now, you can take it down with the very same universal knowledge. So, that's the point I'm making here. You want to save the world, you have to spread universal knowledge. But we need to get it out to mass amounts of people. And we need to unify people under, these ways of transitioning, these ways of approaching them. Through such ways, NITA is a bridge. Nature's the answer. NITA. .1 is the website. Okay? Because there's one movement, one counter agenda to their main agenda of dominating the world and turning it literally upside down so they can divide and conquer. Age-old scheme to gain control and power. I'm assuming a lot of people who hear this may be like, what in the world is going on? And what is he talking about? And I don't understand. Or I'll just keep an open mind and I'm not going to really say anything about it. I'm not going to do anything about it. But I'll just keep it in the back of my mind. No, you need to think about it. You really need to think about it because time is running out and the world needs change. So think about it and actually do something. Whether it's something that doesn't have to do with exactly what I'm saying, but something that at least considers my words. Something. Okay? Because I'm not saying these words for no reason. And many others share similar beliefs to this, by the way. There's many other individuals. And there are people who are taking action, I assure, but we all need to motivate and push each other, essentially, to take even more action, because clearly what we're doing is not enough. And once censorship fully kicks in, when there's a fuller power grab because of collapse, when there's more sexual perversion because it's the only way to create work during a collapse, when there's people causing more riots, more destruction, wanting communism and their fake form of anarchy because it's not really anarchy, it's just called chaos even though it's not actually. So they're twisting the word and they're twisting every definition, and that's what they do, is called twisting the life, so they can turn it to their satanic life, which is materialistic goods over spiritual goods. Essentially just destroying the human consciousness, the human spirit. You love other human beings, you will consider my words. You love other human beings, you will start talking to other individuals about this very idea, and you won't be scared. You have to bring it up out of moral obligation, because we are in a state of desperateness, and it's going to grow, and you're going to see it, and you're going to want to speak up more, and you're going to wish that you spoke up more in the past as well. So this is a wake-up call. This is a warning, but I'm not asking you to be paranoid. I'm not asking for you to be in fear. I don't want you to be in fear. I don't want you to be paranoid. I'm not paranoid. I'm not in fear. But clearly I have something to say. And what I have to say is that we're not abiding to nature, and nature is clearly the answer. And everybody knows it pretty much. Whether they follow this line or that line on the political spectrum, it doesn't even matter. We're all human beings, and we could all agree to this universal knowledge. How about we all share it and understand it and act about it? Okay, get all these ideas and all these religions out of our head and start thinking about this universal knowledge and say, oh, well, that's a religion too. No, it's not a religion. It's not a religion to say, okay, well, this is what's simply here. And actually what's simply here is to have differing ideas and differing people and unique ways of thinking, and not to agree on just one thing, and not to have another human being over another human being because it's innately immoral and unjust. I mean, come on. Do people do the thinking like this? No. So who is going to show them this? And if you know it's the truth, well, who's going to share the truth with them? It's got to be somebody. You know, if nobody's going to take action either in your neighborhood, who will? If your whole neighborhood doesn't even know you, doesn't even talk to you, are you going to talk to them? If you guys need to be armed and ready and, with each other, who's going to be the one who reaches out to connect everybody together? Same deal with the world. You want to connect your neighbors so you protect your neighborhood? That's what you do, right? But what if you want to protect the world and save the world? You connect the world. You literally talk to them. And that's what we have to do with independent media. We talk with one another. We need to get these ideas out there. We need to talk about how nature is the answer. How Nita is our blueprint to get out of this. How I can't be the only spokesperson for this. How really there's nothing more universal than nature and natural law and natural medicine and natural rights. And all that has ever been amazing, ancient knowledge that has been suppressed. Okay, everything. Even flat earth is another taboo subject people don't want to talk about. You're instantly crazy for mentioning flat earth. Hey, believe it or not, there's a lot of evidence. And a lot more common sense evidence. Look up Eric Dubay so you don't get, these other individuals who constantly just attacking it. And that's all you see. Censorship is high on that subject. Very high on that subject, and people don't see it. They don't realize it. And then they think that, they're getting a legitimate source about it, but also it's just there as a psyop, psychological operations. That's what it means. It means that they're controlled opposition, meaning that they're there just to create more division and make a side look bad, so they can represent that side to make all that side look bad. It's guilt by association. So meaning if I believe in this, I must be that because I believe in what these other people are believing. That's wrong. I'm an individual being. I own myself. My thoughts, just because I agree with one thing with that somebody else agrees with, does not mean that I'm associated with that individual. Okay, so that's the idea there, where we shouldn't use guilt by association, where we shouldn't fall to these collectivist mindsets. When I say Nita uniting everybody, uniting everybody under individualist ideas, the very ideas we need to get to the masses. That's the whole point of informing many people. You say, okay, well, you're still collectivist. No, you're collectivist too because you're providing information. You want a lot of people to know about it, right? I mean, isn't that the whole point of getting that information out there? And if you believe it's important, there's a lot of people who can agree on that similar basis because you believe it to be true. So the same thing goes with this. If we believe it to be true, and we want to bring people around that. And actually it teaches us, like I said, about our individuality. So it's actually special. It's not pushing us into only collectivism within itself, which obviously fails. So that means capitalism, socialism, communism, everything, every ism technically fails. It's not universal. It's not timeless. It's not in natural law. It's not in anywhere in nature, essentially. We made it. It's man-made, like man-made medicine. It's not from nature. It was taken from nature, stolen, twisted, manipulated, denatured. Okay, so that's the point I make there. That's why I call this new world order a denatured world order, and clearly we're living in that system already, and it's moving forward. Their next plan is to have this collapse and potentially World War III between, who knows, Israel and Arabs and Christians or whatever. There's FEMA camps, internment camps we have to worry about. Many different situations. Communist forces coming onto land, potentially. Wars, again, there for divide and conquer while there's bankers behind it. So therefore, we're just chess pawns. And people are going to fight for what they believe in, even though it's just a fake fight. and they're just being used like everybody else. So you see it across the board. You see it across the board. It's sad. It really is sad how much deception there is. Like I said, it's hard because you just can't find a pure truth to it. You never will. People have to live with the fact that the world and nature is not perfect. It's not a perfect place, and I'm not asking for a utopia, but it's a place that we have to strive and live for if we want the optimal conditions on Earth. It's self-sustainability and not having these external forces claim to rule over us as slavery. This universal knowledge has been kept away from us on purpose, and I say that to people because they want to keep us controlled. It's the very idea of statism is to believe in authority. And when we drop that idea, all the problems of the world that we see today would not nearly manifest the way they have. And simply by getting rid of statism at any point in time within the human population, you see enormous discoveries, inventions, creativity, awakenings, everything, because people start realizing their own power that they were given by God, by nature. And it really is here for them. So I don't want to make this any longer, but realize all the things that will happen in the collapse, we really have to worry about. Mental problems, perversion, work that is technically unethical, scam artists, potential war increases, people calling for increasing government demands, people blaming other governments, faked events, false flags, mass depopulation, medical experiments, introducing worldwide programs, worldwide cryptocurrency, worldwide religions, essentially, because that's what it is. The biggest religion is money, aside from government. Okay, so take my words, please consider them. This is perhaps one of the most important podcasts I ever did, and especially since it's concerning exactly what may happen in just the next couple years. Yes, it will be within your lifetime, actually, likely, if you hear this. Things are moving so rapidly, especially with technology. 10 years is like 100 years, so keep that into account. We're not living necessarily history on repeat. We're living history on repeat, but with modifications that keep us potentially further enslaved, and actually with the ability to not even think itself, something that's never existed before, actually, in history. There's been slaves before, there's been all this other stuff, but you're talking our very biochemistry is being rewired. Our very minds, with frequencies, our water supply, everything is not the same as it was back then. So to say everything's a cycle in such regards, no. We're living a very different and very special time, so we can learn. Anybody in the lows of life will have the best of teachings and knowledge for those of the future. So don't give up. I make that very clear in my other videos. If you want some inspiration, I encourage you to check them out. I keep a lot of things in positive senses sometimes. Other times I want to come out like this and say, look, this is what can happen. This is what we need to be aware of. We don't need to take ourselves down for it. We need to just simply acknowledge the problem, recognize it, identify it, act on it. Act on it. So whoever you are, doesn't matter who you are, we do need to act on it in some way, somehow. We can't be afraid to at least get the universal knowledge out. You are Nita. You are nature's the answer. Not just you, though, everybody. Okay? But I need you. I can't be alone. And if this is our best way to unify, and it's here for us to unify, like I said, all these aspects of nature, then we need to promote nature itself. We are not trying to represent nature ourselves. We're trying to just bring nature to people, which they already do live in nature. They just simply don't see. Their eyes are concealed. They're in the dark. Let's awaken them. Bring them to the light. The sunlight. It heals them. The moon heals them. It may cause you crazy. That's where they get the word lunacy, right? And here I am at 3 a.m. recording this. But hey, all of it is here for a reason. All of it is here for a reason. The sun and the moon work together. Two polar opposites. hey, the same thing can happen for a political party or people who claim to be on complete opposite ends. You're not. You're all one. You work together. Don't be under the illusion that you are. We all are here together. We all can work together. Please share this with your loved ones or family members or other people in the truth communities, or just simply share your word of mouth. I've delivered templates and different ways to do this, so use the resources that I've gathered for you and put time and effort into. Because clearly, I'm uprooting my other works and projects because this is important to me. And is it important to you to save the world? Is it important to you to actually do something about it? Then do it. You be the change, and your voice will shine, and I will recognize you if you represent Nita. I'll say, hey, look, this person, he's representing Nita, and he's doing it right. Because she, by the way, girl, fantastic. There's many of them that follow this work, and we need everybody. Human beings. In fact, women, I'd say, are the most healing. Men could be the most directive. We all need each other here. Okay? Let's do this. We need to heal the world. We need to direct the world. Let's get everybody together. Let's create this conversation that has to be made, at least in the independent media within itself first, and then spread it to the rest of the world. But how about both? Do some action in real life. Go to your political parties locally. Record yourself. Put on YouTube. Show your representation of Nita. Get those ideas. Plant the seed into the minds. Appeal to them in human ways. Simply the way of doing it. You don't have to do it perfect either. Don't be afraid. Look, just by doing it, getting it out there, it's good enough. People are not doing it. So it's important that you at least do something. Whether it be just having a flag or whatever. The more effort you put in, the more you're going to get out, too. And you don't want to give up either, especially being that it's also dependent on the people you're talking to. Some of them are going to be more closed-minded, others, okay? Understand that. Don't give up. You need to keep marching forward. Is this a war? It could be. It doesn't have to be. It could be something you enjoy after a while. You could meet a lot of people. You become the natural mayor in town, but you just choose not to rule over anybody. You just are the one that's sharing all the knowledge. You're Jesus, the anarchist, while everybody that follows may be statist, but you encourage them to be anarchist. Somebody who you just encourage people to think for themselves while you think for yourself. But we could all still get along with one another. Hello? Just because you disagree, like I said, does not mean you can't unite. Get these ideas out to the public. Simple ideas like that. Even if you listen into others and you intervene just a little bit and you say, well, what about this? What about that? Get them thinking. Ask questions, not necessarily just always tell them what to do. Guide people in the right direction. Guide them. Okay? We can guide humanity, but we all need to go into this together. So, you bring that message out there. You bring Nature is the Answer, Nita out there on video, on recording, whatever it may be. Hey, I will give you recognition. 100%. Okay? And it's, who cares? You might not want that from me, whatever, but people need to know of the people who are taking action. People need to know, how to do it. And you can be that example, and you can actually teach others, and we can all inspire each other to do more and more and more. And that just makes us all better human beings. So, thank you for listening. This is Cory Endrulat, Nature's the Answer. The website is nita.one, Nita.one. I also have over 35 hours worth of documentaries on the subject. I appreciate you for listening in, wherever you may be. And please keep an open mind to everything, of course. But we do need to unify, and the only way we can unify is by understanding, and the only way we can create change is if we unify. Understand these ideas, as I mentioned. Thank you for listening. Cory, Edmund, Endrulat, Nature's the Answer.